Welcome back to That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Anime Review Episode number 2. Last one we discussed 3 episodes. This one we're discussing only 2. Episodes 4 and 5. Which are called In the Kingdom of the Dwarves. And The Hero King. Guzzler Dragulum. Now, this episode is an introduction to the dwarves and the elves. Yes, we're going to use the elves one. Bunch of pretty elves. Yep. And we also introduced to the Hero King. Then Gaza Dorgo. Yes. Episode 5 is technically his debut. Yep. Now, simply put, Rimuru is basically here just to recruit some artisans to basically build houses and clothing for the God Village. So, basically, after traveling for a bit, before they arrive, he has a private conversation with Rega about the obvious. Because he killed his father, does he want revenge? He has thought about it, but he feels as though that it wasn't necessary due to the fact he did spare the rest of the clan. And I'm like, okay, that seems like a pretty reasonable thing. I mean, he spared your lives. Seems like a pretty decent person. So I guess if we're gonna, okay, I'll just follow him now. Okay, but at least they resolved that. And of course, they bring up the elves. We have Rimuru. He's blushing about the female elves, where he's basically like, oh my god, I'm messing with this. Apparently, it looks like he's got an elf fetish. As a matter of fact, he's never seen elves. Yep. And then they have at the city, but Rimuru figures though him and Gabish, who, by the way, is the only goblin who didn't evolve for some reason. He still looks exactly the same, and there's no explanation why the heck he's like that. Excuse me. So, they walk up to the city, and they go up there, and so then they're accosted by 2 humans. One who's got a scar in his head, with a shape like a freaking cross. It looks like somebody just basically cut a complete. Either they burned a symbol of a cross on the side of this guy's head. And so Rimuru basically decides to tell him to leave. They're like, no. So he decides to transform, uses mimicry right in front of them. And he transforms into a giant-sized version of a dire wolf, which does a roar to go over the scare them, and it unintentionally caused some damage to the area. It caused people some injuries, some people fainted. Eventually people soiled themselves, like, what? And he's like, I agree. That last part was not necessary. Oh, by the way, he does so gibbish. Like, okay, remember that first rule? Remember the first rule I told you? Don't harm humans? Yeah. I want you to close your eyes and cover your ears. And he means to sleep for the next episode. So he goes in, and he's basically in jail. And despite the fact that what was to cooperate his account, he's still in jail. And all of a sudden, apparently, there was a cave-in at the local mine, and 3 brothers are injured. So Rimuru hears about this, decides to make a bunch of healing potions. Well, basically, out of his own goo. What was slimeness? Yeah, he kind of did this last episode similarly. With that one was a bunch of goblins that were injured. So he just put them in his body and just basically used the healing potion in his body to heal them all. This one, he just basically healed Barrow, and of course, there was half of the 3 dwarves, and they were able to thank him. And one of them can't speak for some reason. And then, of course, the slime is freed. Well, and brought to basically showing the city for a bit. See a suit of armor, a particular sword that was made by somebody that the soldier knows, who turns out to be his brother. Yes. And thinking, really? Oh yeah, really. Yeah, his name is Kaidu, the captain of the guards. And Kaijin is his brother. And from the armed nation of Duragun, which apparently is a very neutral nation, is able to free trade with anybody. So, then he sees a sword and he meets the guy. And the dwarves, who just happily met him the previous day, and like, oh, it's you. And then he explains exactly his situation. But he's like, I've got a quota to meet. I can't exactly do it at the moment. So then he shows up the sword he wants to make. And like, okay, maybe 1. So he proceeds to make a bunch of copies. And then, of course, he drops them off and it's complete pretty quickly. these artisans to teach these goblins how to basically build houses and make clothes. Okay. Seems simple enough. So he drops up his order pretty quickly, too, within just a few days of the deadline. Then, of course, they decide to go celebrate at a bar filled with elves. And the girl's like, oh, this is so cute, this little slime. And, of course, they all rub against their chest, and he's, like, blushing like crazy. Though I should point out, though, this is a woman voicing a male slime, saying this stuff like, "Oh, look all the skin, soft skin, the breast," and it's like all around him. This is so funny. Yep, and then one of the girls just happily has him sitting on her lap, and one of the girls who looks like of course she reports like, oh, you're a fortune teller, okay, so you can rub your chest on me. He's like, you can rub your chest on me, your butt. Nope, it's a crystal ball, and we get sort of in a way a tease of a character we might see in a future episode. Yep, a woman who does kind of play a role in these episodes. Oh, don't worry, they do in fact do that. By the way, the place is called the Butterfly of... it's called the Butterfly of Night Elves. Interesting. It was decayed by the Destined One, which this woman does play a role later on in the episodes. This episode was technically her first mention, though she makes her first appearance in the very next episode, which I'm looking forward to that. Yep. And then, of course, the minister, the one who charged all this, his name is Vesta. Excuse me a minute. Sorry about that. My alarm went off. It'll take just a minute. Yeah, I forgot I put my phone over there. Alright, where was I? Oh, yes. So, Mitchell comes to think, oh, yeah, he has made his deadline. Why he celebrated? And then he finds out, oh, you did turn it in. Okay, and then, of course, I think it's probably the owner. And they're wondering, like, why you let a monster in here like a slime? Oh, he's a friendly slime. Then he just takes a sip of his drink and he dumps his beer all over Rimuru, who... They just have to analyze it. He's like, not necessary, I already know about this. And then Kaijin decides to punch this guy twice in the face. And he gets knocked out. And then, of course, he gets arrested for punching him. And apparently, the very next day, he's apparently got a broken arm and a lot more bruises than he was previous night. Rim recalls, like, why the heck does he have more injuries for? He only got punched twice. And, of course, we meet the Hero King in the episode. Now, this guy is a regular character in the series, so don't worry, he will come back. Oh, they do mention about the Destined One, which Rimuru points out, though, this woman looks very much Japanese, which appearance-wise, I can kind of buy it. And he's 5 children. Like, okay. And we have... Gazo is a very intimidating guy, and, of course... Reitu is like, oh, he has a very intimidating aura. He's a beast. Better not mess with him. And I guess that if in fact I'm sure those guys would agree. So it was like, oh, he accosted me in this proxy, which they easily figured out, though, Vesta bought this guy off. Because apparently the defendants are not allowed to speak in their trial. That's according to society, which I think that's kind of weird. Like... A proxy's fine. You can't give testimony. Can't get the side of the story. It sounds like utter bullcrap to me. So, then of course, the previous night they had pledged allegiance to him, like sort of loyalty to him, like Kaiju would go, and of course the other 3 dwarves would go too. They're with him, and of course Kaijin, of course, explains this to the king after he gets sort of his his punishment was like 20 years of forced labor, and the king is like, nah, I'm gonna exile all four of you. And it's like sad to see him go. And then he proceeds to supposedly banish Vesta too, and he will come back. Around the line, he will come back. So this is not the last time we see him. And this also deals with him, the reason why that Vesta and Kaijin don't like each other, because of a project that failed that Kaijin took the blame for because he was one charge. And of course the guy bought the witnesses. Also, the guy didn't like he was also jealous of them because he made captain over him, because because Kaijin was from a peasant family and the guy was from a rich family. Which, from what I've read in fiction, that is standard. Rich nobility don't like the fact that people who are not rich are put in higher positions than they are. Perfectly standard. The one thing I was going to point out about this king, when I first saw him, like, man, he looks a lot like the warrior general, the chief warrior from Overlord. I mean, it's the very same appearance, not the same character per se. He's got a very intimidating look about him. I say he's about the same build. The only difference between him, I mean, they both got very similar faces, though you can easily tell they're probably drawn by dim people. Mm-hmm. It's just that the armor is very similar, and I believe they're both around the same height. Which I never suspected, basically, of a character from different series, where they have a character who's based on the chief warrior from Overlord. Yeah, who the heck would know that? Yep. But yeah, they wrap up this whole dwarf thing in just a couple episodes. By the way, these 2 episodes cover 1 chapter. Which thinking, really? Well, there's a reason for that. The chapters in these books are freaking. His book is freaking long. Like, the book itself is 267 pages. It took me like 2 or 3 days to get through this book. Yep. But yeah, that's. Oh yeah, and of course they go off and they go back to the village, and we'll find out what happens next in the very next episode. Okay, so that's a particular review. Stay tuned for our next review, which is going to be the very next episode of the series, which will be episode 3. I'll discuss 2 more episodes of the series, 6 and 7. Okay, next video. Bye.